What if I told you? The words you choose can echo in her mind long after you've left the room, playing on repeat, not because they're loud, but because they touched something deep, something she didn't even realize she was craving. There's a quiet power in the right compliment. Not the obvious ones, not the surface-level praise that every man throws around casually, but the kind that reaches her emotions, her identity, her inner world. Women don't just hear words. They feel them. They interpret them. They carry them. And when you say the right thing in the right way, you don't just get her attention, you stay in her thoughts. There's something deeply powerful about a compliment that goes beyond what she looks like and touches who she is. When you speak to a woman's inner world, her thoughts, her emotions, her way of seeing life, you're entering a space that very few people ever reach. And that's exactly why it creates such a strong emotional impact. Most compliments she hears are predictable. They live on the surface. They talk about her smile, her style, her beauty. And while she may appreciate them, they don't stay with her for long. They don't challenge her emotionally. They don't make her pause. They don't make her feel understood. They are heard, and then they fade. But when you notice something deeper, like the way she processes things, the way she expresses her ideas, or the quiet strength in how she handles certain situations, you're doing something entirely different. You're showing her that you see more than what's visible. You're showing her that you're paying attention to the parts of her that are usually hidden, the parts she doesn't always put on display. And that's where the emotional shift happens, because being seen on that level is rare. It creates a moment where she feels understood without having to explain herself. It feels effortless, yet incredibly intimate. When you say something like, "I like how you think about things," it's different. It's deeper. You're not just complimenting her, you're validating her identity. You're acknowledging something she values about herself, something she may not even hear from others. That kind of compliment doesn't just make her smile. It makes her feel. It lingers in her mind because it connects to something personal. She starts replaying it, not because it was dramatic, but because it felt real, because it touched something inside her that doesn't get recognized often. And here's the deeper psychology behind it. When a woman feels emotionally understood, she naturally starts to associate that feeling with you. You become the person who gets her, the one who sees beyond the obvious. And that creates a bond that goes far beyond attraction. It builds emotional connection, which is far more powerful and lasting. It also creates curiosity. She starts wondering how you were able to notice that about her. What else do you see? What else do you understand? And that curiosity pulls her closer mentally and emotionally. She begins to open up more, to share more of her inner world, because she feels like it will be received, not judged, not ignored. But this only works when it's genuine. You can't fake depth. You can't pretend to see something you haven't actually observed. Women can feel the difference instantly. That's why it's not about trying to impress. It's about truly paying attention, listening to her, observing her, and then speaking on what you genuinely notice. When your compliment reflects her inner world, it tells her one simple but powerful thing. You are more than what people usually see. And I see it. And that message carries emotional weight that no surface-level praise ever could. There's a reason why some compliments disappear the moment they're spoken. while others stay in her mind for hours, even days. The difference isn't in how nice the words sound. It's in how specific they are. Specificity transforms a compliment from something ordinary into something that feels real, personal, and impossible to ignore. When a compliment is vague, it doesn't carry weight. Saying, "You're amazing," or "You're beautiful" might sound good on the surface, but it doesn't give her anything to hold on to. It's too broad, too familiar. She's heard it before, maybe many times. And because of that, her mind doesn't attach meaning to it. It simply passes through. But the moment you get specific, everything changes. Specificity shows that you're not just reacting, you're observing. You're paying attention to details that most people overlook. And that's what makes her pause. That's what makes her feel like this moment is different from all the others. Instead of saying, "I like your smile," imagine saying, "I notice the way your smile changes when you're talking about something you care about." It's subtle, but it feels real. Now, you've done something powerful. You've taken a simple observation and turned it into something deeply personal. You've shown her that you're not just looking at her, you're noticing her. And that's what makes it unforgettable, because when a compliment is specific, it feels earned. It doesn't sound like something you could say to anyone. It feels like something that belongs to her and only her. It creates a sense of uniqueness, a feeling that she's being seen in a way that isn't generic or replaceable. There's also a psychological layer to this. The human mind is naturally drawn to details. When you highlight something precise, it creates a mental image, something she can replay. Instead of a vague statement that fades quickly, your words become a moment she can revisit. She remembers exactly what you said, how you said it, and what it made her feel. And here's where it gets even deeper. Specific compliments often reveal things she didn't realize about herself. When you point out a small detail in her behavior, her expression, or the way she carries herself, you're giving her a new perspective. You're holding up a mirror to something she may have never fully noticed. That creates intrigue. It makes her think, reflect, and connect those emotions back to you. But specificity isn't about overloading her with words or trying too hard to sound impressive. In fact, the simpler the observation, the more powerful it can be. If it's genuine, it's about choosing one small, real detail and expressing it in a way that feels natural and grounded. And when you do that, your compliment stops being just a compliment. It becomes an experience, something she doesn't just hear, but something she feels, processes, and remembers. Because in a world full of generic words, the man who notices the details becomes the one she can't stop thinking about. There's a quiet truth most people overlook. Words alone don't create impact. It's the way they're delivered that determines whether they land or disappear. You can say the perfect compliment, the most thoughtful, well-crafted line, but if it doesn't feel authentic in the way it's expressed, she won't connect to it. In fact, she'll feel the disconnect instantly. Because women don't just listen to what you say. They read how you say it. Your tone, your timing, your body language, your eye contact, all of it speaks louder than the actual words. And if those elements don't align with sincerity, the compliment loses its power. Authenticity is what gives your words weight. It's what makes her believe you. When a compliment is delivered with calm confidence, without hesitation or over-explanation, It feels grounded. It feels real. You're not trying to impress her. You're not seeking a reaction. You're simply expressing something you genuinely noticed. And that energy creates a different kind of impact. It feels safe, it feels natural, and most importantly, it feels trustworthy. But when a man tries too hard, when his voice changes, when he overcompensates, when he looks for validation after speaking, it shifts the dynamic completely. Instead of feeling like a genuine observation, it starts to feel like a performance. And the moment it feels like a performance, she disconnects emotionally. Because authenticity isn't about perfection. It's about alignment. It's about your words matching your energy, your expression matching your intention. When you say something and you fully stand behind it, without needing approval, without second-guessing yourself, it creates a sense of certainty. And that certainty is deeply attractive because it feels stable. It feels real. There's also something subtle that happens when your delivery is authentic. It slows the moment down. She doesn't rush past your words. She absorbs them. Because your tone, your presence, your calmness, they signal that this isn't just something you're saying casually. It's something you mean. And meaning is what creates emotional impact. Think about it. Two people can say the exact same sentence, but it will feel completely different depending on how it's delivered. One might feel forgettable, while the other stays in her mind, replaying in her thoughts. The difference isn't the sentence. It's the energy behind it. Authentic delivery also removes pressure. It doesn't make her feel like she needs to respond in a certain way or match your intensity. Instead, it creates space. Space for her to feel, to process, to naturally respond without force. And that space is where connection grows. But authenticity can't be faked. It comes from being present in the moment, from genuinely noticing her, from speaking without trying to manipulate the outcome. When you're not attached to how she reacts, your words become freer, more natural, more impactful. And that's the paradox. When you stop trying to say the right thing and instead focus on saying what's real to you, your words become more powerful than anything rehearsed. Because at the end of the day, she won't remember every word you said. But she will remember how real it felt when you said it. There's a common misconception that attraction is built on excitement alone, intensity, mystery, unpredictability. And while those elements can spark interest, they don't sustain it. What truly deepens attraction, what makes a woman think about you when you're not around, is emotional safety. Emotional safety is the feeling that she can be herself without being judged, rushed, or misunderstood. It's subtle, but incredibly powerful. When she feels safe with you, her guard lowers naturally. She doesn't feel the need to perform, impress, or protect herself. And in that space, her emotions begin to open up more freely. This is where real attraction grows. Because when a woman feels emotionally safe, she associates you with comfort and stability. Your presence becomes something she can relax into, not something she has to navigate carefully. And that sense of ease creates a deeper connection than any surface-level charm ever could. It also allows her imagination to engage. When she's not preoccupied with overthinking your intentions or questioning how she's being perceived, her mind becomes free to wander. She replays conversations, remembers how you made her feel, and begins to build an emotional attachment without even realizing it. Emotional safety isn't about being passive or overly soft. It's about being grounded. It's in the way you listen without interrupting, the way you respond without dismissing her feelings, and the way you remain steady instead of reactive. That consistency signals that you're someone she can trust emotionally. And trust is what transforms attraction from something temporary into something lasting. When your words, your tone, and your behavior all communicate that she's accepted as she is, it creates a powerful emotional anchor. She doesn't just enjoy your presence. She feels understood within it. And that feeling is rare enough to stay with her long after the moment has passed. There's a fine line between admiration and flattery. And most people cross it without realizing. Obvious flattery tries too hard. It's loud, exaggerated, and often feels like it's aiming for a reaction rather than expressing something real. And while it might get a polite smile, it rarely leaves a lasting impression. Subtle admiration, on the other hand, works differently. It doesn't demand attention. It earns it. When your appreciation is understated, almost effortless, it creates curiosity. Instead of overwhelming her with praise, you give just enough for her to feel it, and then let her mind fill in the rest. A simple, calm observation like, "There's something about the way you handle things. It's rare," carries far more weight than a long, dramatic compliment, because it feels genuine, not performative. Subtlety also signals confidence. You're not trying to convince her of anything, and you're not seeking validation in return. You're just expressing what you noticed, and then you let it sit. That quiet certainty is powerful. It shows that your words come from a place of truth, not effort. And here's where the psychology deepens. When admiration isn't fully spelled out, it invites her to think about it. She starts to wonder what exactly you meant, what you saw in her, why you said it the way you did. That curiosity keeps the moment alive in her mind, replaying it, analyzing it, feeling it again. Obvious flattery fades quickly because it gives everything up front. Subtle admiration lingers because it leaves space. And in that space, her imagination begins to work, turning a simple moment into something she can't easily forget. There's a difference between telling a woman she's beautiful and making her feel understood. One fades quickly, the other lingers. When you compliment her inner world, her thoughts, her perspective, the way she sees life, you're stepping into a space most people ignore. And that's where she starts to feel something different about you, something deeper, because beauty is common praise, but being seen is rare. And here's where most men get it wrong. They stay generic. You're amazing. You're pretty. It sounds nice, but it doesn't stay. Specificity is what makes her pause. When you notice the way she explains something, the way her eyes light up when she talks about what she loves, or how she carries herself in a difficult moment, and you speak on that, it hits differently. Because now she knows you're paying attention, not just looking, but observing. But even the perfect words fall flat if they don't feel real. Women are incredibly intuitive when it comes to authenticity. It's not about memorizing lines. It's about how you say them, the calmness in your voice, the certainty in your energy. When your compliment comes from a grounded place, without trying too hard, it feels safe. And that safety, it opens her up emotionally in ways you can't force, because attraction isn't just excitement. It's also comfort. When a woman feels emotionally safe around you, her mind relaxes, and that's when her imagination begins to wander. That's when your words replay in her thoughts, not because you overwhelmed her, but because you made her feel at ease, safe enough to feel, to wonder, to lean into the connection. And here's the secret: subtlety wins. The more obvious you are, the less impact it carries. But when your compliment feels effortless, almost like a passing observation, it creates curiosity. It makes her think, did he really notice that? And that question alone keeps you in her mind longer than any exaggerated praise ever could. At the core of it all, every woman wants to feel seen, not just looked at, but understood on a level that goes beyond the surface. When your words reflect something she hasn't even fully expressed herself, it creates a connection that feels almost magnetic. That's when she starts thinking about you, replaying the moment, feeling it again, because the right compliment doesn't just stay in her ears, it lives in her thoughts.